Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gloria and thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today I wanted to go through 10 plants that are pretty good with low light, and I kind of wanted to touch more on the uncommon plant side so that you guys can get some ideas and go out and buy these if you have kind of a lower light environment. And yeah, before we get started, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of my new videos. And yeah, let's jump right into today's video. So I have quite a few plants here today. I don't always talk about 10 plants, but today I'm gonna give you 10 plants. There will be a lot of aeroids, some Hoyas, even some orchids. So just the usual, because those are mainly the plants that are in my collection. We'll start off with the Hoyas, and I wanna talk about this one, which is the HOYA PACHYCLADA, which this one definitely does better in lower light versus really bright high light, because I've had this under my grow lights and let me tell you, it did not enjoy it. My grow lights are so super strong and it just essentially bleached the leaves. They're a little lighter than what I would like, but still, you know, like I still like it. And this is how it's looking like right now. You can see that some of the leaves are a little bit lighter in green. It's a little bit bleached looking, but I mean, it's still very, very cute. It's fuzzy, which if you're a fan of fuzzy leaves, you'll definitely like this plant. It's a little bit on the cheaper side for like uncommon plant, but there's different varieties of the PACHYCLADA. So there's the white one, and I think there's a pink one as well. I can't really remember which one I have. This one is definitely one of the good Hoyas. A little hard to root, a little bit slow to root, and just otherwise very good Hoya, but a little bit, you know, slow. I have this quite pulled back away from my grow light bulbs now, as opposed to my strip LED light, because that one's just way too strong. Another one that I find is pretty good with low light is my HOYA OBOVATA. It is quite the delicate balance between high light versus low light for the OBOVATA, because you want bright enough light such that it will actually grow quickly, but not so much that it bleaches the leaves. You can see that there's kind of like different colored leaves, and some are lighter and some are darker. So not all the leaves were under my strong strip light. The ones that were actually got pretty bleached, and I would say definitely kind of keep it on the lower to medium light side versus the highlight. Otherwise you'll get some very like light green leaves, which is not as good looking as darker, kind of more colorful leaves, if you guys get what I mean. I would say the OBOVATA variegata can handle higher light, because that one is still under my strip lights, which are really strong. But this one I had to move it back, so it's in the same spot as my PACHYCLADA now, away from the strip lights. Next one is also one that I had to pull away from my strip lights, which you're seeing the theme here. So this one is my HOYA POLYNEURA. This is the fishtail Hoya, and this is how it's looking like. Some of the leaves are kind of like yellowy green, and that's due to too much light. I do apologize if the lighting of this video is like going back and forth. Lighting is just very weird today, and I can't help it because I use natural light to film, so I do apologize. But this is the HOYA POLYNEURA, and as you can see, it's, oh, why do I always drop leca? I drop leca balls everywhere. I literally find them in all different corners of my house, and it's just, it's getting a bit much. I'm getting complaints, but I'm not gonna do anything about it. Anyway, so this is the POLYNEURA, and there are quite a lot of new leaves now because of the recent chop and propagation. So I have various different stems in here. That's why there's more growth points, and it's all rooted really well. The new leaves, I'm trying to keep it in a lower light situation, and I was hoping that the darker kind of spot that I'm keeping it in now will actually be better for it. So HOYA POLYNEURA, definitely don't put it in too bright of a light environment, otherwise it would turn that color. So those are the Hoyas. Also wanted to touch on one last Hoya, which is a HOYA MATHILDE. So the HOYA MATHILDE can handle pretty low light because for one of its parents, it actually has a carnosa in it. So it is a cross between the HOYA carnosa and also HOYA serpens, which gives the product of the HOYA MATHILDE. I keep this one in my north facing window, so I don't even give it any grow lights. It doesn't hang out in my plant shelf. It's just like literally on my desk in front of a window, and that's all it really needs. I mean, I'm sure you can put it into brighter light, but once again, it will bleach the leaves and it will grow faster, but it might get a little bit sunburned if it gets any direct sun. This one, definitely keep it in lower light and it will be just as happy, if not happier. Okay, next up I want to talk about some trailing plants, which I know you guys know about my wonderful CEBU blue, Viburnum CEBU blue. is what the fancy people call it. I really like this one. I find that when it was under my grow lights, once again, it was just getting way too much light and it was turning just kind of yellow, which you can probably see from the top. So the top of the plant is kind of yellowing off a little bit and dying off. The leaves are getting bleached, which I did not like at all. And you know, I let it kind of trail off, which I'm kind of enjoying how it's getting a little bit long. So I will be propagating it soon so that I can stick it back into the pot. This vine is really cute, right? The newer leaves, I have been growing it in a spot away from the grow lights, so it kind of just indirectly gets some of the light, so off to the side, and it's a lot happier that way. I find that it is, once again, a very delicate balance between giving it enough light so that the leaves are big as they grow versus too much light where it will kind of make the leaves a little bit yellowy light green instead of a darker bluish tint green, which is what I want for my CEBU blue. I like the trailing look, as I've said before in many videos, as opposed to trellising up or kind of staking it up on a pole. I just want it to be trailing beautifully and looking super lush, hanging down from my plant shelf. Another low light loving plant is probably, I would say, a MICANS, but that's probably because I've burned my MICANS before in too much light and too much sun. So I'm a bit more careful now in terms of where I place my MICANS because all the leaves that did get sunburned actually eventually fell off, and I just don't really have as many leaves, and I had to propagate and get more MICANS to make this pot nice and lush. So this is my MICANS, which I've shown you guys many times before. I love this one so much. It's one of my favorite plants, even if it has smaller leaves. It has big leaves, small leaves. It just looks really nice and messy, which is the look I like for my MICANS. I'm just gonna have this trailing and just let it be. If you could find a nice medium light environment for the MICANS, it would probably be the happiest, but it would do perfectly fine in low light. It just won't be happy in high light. So be careful with your MICANS. Velvet leaf philodendrons generally can't tolerate too much light. I like my MICANS to look a little bit dark, kind of giving me like melanochrysum vibes. Moving on, I'll go through another philodendron. This one is my philodendron gloriosum. So this one is also a velvet leaf philodendron. It's sort of more of a medium light green leaf, heart-shaped, and it has some white veining, so very beautiful. It can grow really, really big. But I find that when it's too much light, it turns the leaves a little bit yellow, once again, similar to my Hoyas, and I don't think that's a good look because it naturally already has kind of medium light green leaves. If you give it too much light, it'll turn really light green and it kind of just doesn't look healthy, which is not good because you can't reverse that and then you have to wait for a new leaf to come out. Do make sure you give it enough light such that it will continue to grow and thrive and not just be stagnant and just go dormant. My gloriosum has kind of gone dormant, so that's why I'm just gonna upload a photo and show you guys as opposed to showing you my actual gloriosum, which is still kind of recovering from thrips. So it's not too happy right now, and I put it in too much light, it got attacked by thrips, and it's not living its best life. Moving on, I want to talk about my Philodendron PASTAZANUM. This one, very similar to the gloriosum. If you give it too much light, it will kind of turn yellowy, just not cute at all. But this one has been growing in a pretty lower light situation. It's quite pulled back from my grow light bulb. My light bulbs are much weaker compared to my strip lights, and this one is actually doing quite well. It pushed out a new leaf in the middle of winter. It's kind of a misconception that like philodendrons all like really bright light. I know a lot of people tend to say, oh yeah, just put all your plants in bright and direct light, but that's definitely not true because some plants can't tolerate it and you will get cosmetic kind of changes and damages to the leaves, which is irreversible. And I get really sad when I bleach my leaves because, you know, you work so hard caring for your plants and then you end up with leaves like that. Okay, so next up I want to talk about my Syngonium. So this one is probably the lower light Syngonium that I have in my collection. I have quite a few now, and this one probably gets the least amount of light and is pretty much really stinking happy because I see so many new leaves. This is the Syngonium CHIAPENSE. I have to pull it so back because it's literally humongous. It's in a big 6-inch pot, also in leca, which let me show you guys the roots first. Do you see all these roots that are just like coming out of the drainage holes? So I have two separate plants in here because I originally propagated it, and there is now a growth point coming out of the recent one. So this is the growth point right here. This is the newest leaf that came out of one of the plants. They are a little bit smaller, so these two leaves, as you can see, compared to the other leaves, which are massive, and that's only because it's kind of the first couple leaves that came out after the propagation, and when you cut a plant back, it does take some time for the leaves to get back to its original size. So I'm not too worried about it, but once again, like I said, it's super happy in a lower light situation, pulled back from my grow lights, and I think it would do perfectly fine in a north facing window compared to other syngoniums which do better in brighter light, like elbow syngoniums. Because of the variegation, it does need slightly higher light. Last but not least, I want to talk about an orchid. So obviously we know that Phalaenopsis orchids can do pretty well in lower light, and it doesn't need a whole bunch of light in order to flower and bloom and grow new leaves and do all the things. But for something like this one, I think it actually does need fairly low light, and it could, you know, thrive regardless of the lighting situation. This one is the LUDISIA, which I have two that I want to show you guys today. So you're getting actually 11 plants in this video instead of 10. But it's the LUDISIA DISCOLOR. This is my plant right now. I actually recently repotted this into this kind of long, shallow concrete planter that I got from my local nursery, and it's so adorable. Just look at that. It's so much better for the orchid to actually crawl, which is amazing, and this is how it's looking like right now. I just top dressed it with some orchid bark, and it's doing pretty well. It literally doesn't care if it's in highlight or low light, so that's why I'm adding it to this video, and how I think this one would actually probably prefer lower light versus highlight so that it doesn't bleach the leaves, but I think it can handle kind of both, you know? And this one is my LUDISIA SPIDERMAN, and also doing quite well. I kind of wanted to plant both the SPIDERMAN and the regular LUDISIA DISCOLOR together, but then I was a little bit worried because this one's just growing in moss right now after it got rotted, and the other one is growing in a mixture of potting mix and bark and a bit of sphagnum moss. So it kind of has like a bunch of different materials in there to make it nice and airy. These are pretty much the plants that I wanted to talk about today. This video is so freaking long. Oh my god, I do apologize, but I just had so much to talk about for these low light loving plants, and I hope you guys will get some of these and add them to your collection. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.